watching this video today is because you want to learn about how to become a sales superstar. And selling can actually be achieved, succeeding in sales can be achieved by anyone. If I did it, if Paul did it, you can do it again. So I want to share with you here a story of Paul Bradbury. How are you, Paul?
Good, thank you.
Wonderful. So Paul is a graduate of our Systematic Selling Strategies program, the Fundamentals. And I invited him because he's got some stories to share. And so just maybe in a couple of sentences, a bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my career working with the health service, working in information management.
Where?
That was in Manchester, back in the UK.
In the UK?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And then after that, I started to work in cybersecurity. I've worked in IT security now for 10 years. So started in the Royal Navy, working in cyber defence. And then after that, moved on to sell cybersecurity products, so networking and security products. That was for a large UK reseller. And then post that, moved out here to Dubai, working with Chris now, and I work with our customers, mostly existing customers, just ensuring that they're getting the most out of their annual maintenance contract with us and making sure that as a company, I align us with what the customer requires.
And people that don't know Chris, this is Chris Morley from Unified Microsystem. Hello, Chris. Perfect. So, you know, we talk about the three pillars in our sales program. We talk about mindset, we talk about activities, and then the engagement with clients. Mm-hmm. When you think of mindset, what is one thing that that has made an impact on you, Paul, that allowed you to see results from the course?
Absolutely. So one of the key areas was definitely discipline.
Uh-huh.
I found that really good. Everyone needs to be reminded to be disciplined at every point in their life, realistically. It was
so the context for people don't know, so discipline, what is that? So we talk about there are certain traits that will guarantee success for a sales professional. And these traits are courage,
yes, humility and discipline.
So discipline was something that was dear to you, I guess, in this case. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I could tell, you know, I needed the course. I absolutely did. I could tell that we were at a point within the company where I need to be putting a strategy in place, and I could see that in order to put a strategy in place, because the information was coming thick and fast. There was a lot of information, a lot of lessons to be learned,
yeah,
and they needed to be put into practice really, really quickly.
Yeah.
So realistically, I had to invest a lot of time, not just in class, but outside of class and outside of working hours, of course, to make sure that those strategies are put in place.
Amazing.
Make sure that we're trying things out, because as a company, I had to make sure that we were doing these new things. Otherwise, the results wouldn't manifest themselves, you know.
Thank you so much. And you know what they say, if you keep on doing what you're doing, you keep on getting what you're getting. And unless you change the input, you won't change the output. Mm-hmm. And because of the world is changing quite fast today, if you keep on doing what you're doing, you will no longer keep on getting the same because of change, because of competition. So the key here is you needed to find new strategies and find the time. You know, they say, I think it was Jim Rohn who said, if you work, was it Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar? If you work 40 hours, you work for survival. 60 hours, you work for success. Now that extra 20 hours isn't necessarily working in the job, but it's working on you. And that's what I commend you on, Paul, because week to week you kept the lessons. Although you took some time out for a certain vacation, but you came back and kept going there. So discipline is really critical, you know.
Yes, absolutely is.
So today, it's one thing to know, the other thing is to apply. And to apply, you need the discipline to put the time. But let's talk a bit about courage, right? So sometimes fear stops us from taking certain actions.
Yes.
And we were talking about the one opportunity that you converted, where normally it wasn't your comfort zone to ask. Ask for what? Can you tell us that story?
Of course, yeah. So in terms of asking for a referral, and I think this is a good story that takes into account courage and humility as well to some extent. You know, actually kind of putting your pride to one side and saying to someone, listen, will you provide me with some more business? And the question is as simple as that. It's scarily as simple as that, because you don't want to say something so simple, but actually when you build relationships with people, they're actually very happy to do that for you.
Absolutely.
They want their colleagues or their peers to experience the success or experience the experience of working with myself that other people have felt. And it's important to, in fact, be proud about that. And you know, the fear is always, not always, but it's often irrational. You know, there's definitely some rational fears out there.
Fear stands for false expectation appearing real. So you make a shadow bigger than the actual cat, and it looked like a lion, you know, or the hand looks like a monster across the wall, you know.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. And that
so what happened?
Yeah, so our colleague, our client, customer, partner, I prefer to say, he's one of what we'd now call, or what I would now, thank you to the course, I would now refer to as a golden goose. He works with the same client base that I work with, but he works in a completely different industry, so he works for a law firm. So he put me in touch with another law firm that are now moving over from the US. They're actually a multinational already, but this is their first foray into the Middle East. They've already got one person out here doing procurement, but he's really struggling on his own. He's only just moved over from London, really struggling with the maze that is procurement in Dubai. So off the back of one phone call with him, there was a 100,000 dirham order, which I couldn't believe that I'd closed that amount of money in just one phone call, and it was literally less than 30 minutes of explaining exactly who we are, how we operate as a company, and how I would be overseeing every step of the way. And I knew that as long as I kept that promise, then I would then have a future customer as a result. Obviously, he's going to work IT over here, so he wouldn't need what we'd call like a typical AMC, annual maintenance contract, but there will definitely be space there for us to keep working together in the future, so I really look forward to that. Also, off the back of the initial 100,000 dirhams, there was 20,000 dirhams worth of upsells later on in the sales cycle. One of the important things is also something that you touch upon a lot, is to keep going back and find those regular touch points in order to build warm relationships with customers. And in order to keep doing that, I kept going back at every single kind of milestone we happened in procurement cycles. And sometimes, once it was something bad, okay, these cameras that you've ordered, there's actually a 2-week delay and there's nothing we can do about it. Off the back of that, who then opened up the discussion about the cameras, asked how they'd been networked, and asked if he would want any, they're called homely devices, basically like small tablets, they're outside a room, log you into a room. So there was 20,000 dirhams worth of upsells just from touching base regularly.
You know, they say it's 5 times less expensive to sell to an existing customer than to go find a new customer. Now, in this case, you went to an existing customer and asked them for a referral. Say, hey, who do you know you think would benefit from utilizing my service? Just like as I've helped you. It's like, oh, I have a friend, you know, and sincerely, to be able to actually get to what Paul got, which is he has someone, and then he gave him, and in one conversation, you get 100,000 dirham deal. It's less than 1%. Okay, that's not going to happen, you know, every single day. But the beauty of it is it does happen because you miss the shots that you don't take. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It's only when you are following consistently certain steps, certain actions. Every action brings a reaction. So here, remember, in our dashboard and our sales activity tracker, we ask our team members to simply track what you're doing. How many calls, how many referral calls, how many follow-ups, etc. And at the end, whatever is coming on the outside is reflected by what is going on the inside. So, well done, man.
Thank you.
So let me build there, Paul, on something that you've talked about, the idea of generating a referral. And another program we have is something called the Aged Account Program. So tell us what happened when you discovered this program, and maybe what happened with you in one of the customers that you decided to practice this approach on them.
No, absolutely. So when we discussed aged account, that was really illuminating for me. Actually drove me to go through our entire accounts book and look at those customers whom I don't actually speak to very often at all. There was one customer whom I had not spoken to for 3 months. We'd done a project with them where we'd set up their office in Abu Dhabi, and we just hadn't really touched base. We were still processing tickets for them, and we just hadn't really given them the care and attention that their other entity, separate company but same overall entity, that are in Dubai. We hadn't really given them that same care.
So that's in Abu Dhabi and one in Dubai. Okay, so
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the one in Dubai is a regulated entity. They've got DFSA regulation, which is companies in the DIFC, or many companies in the DIFC, are regulated under that entity. And this company in Abu Dhabi does want to be regulated by ADGM, Abu Dhabi Global Market, eventually. It's in their roadmap, and we hadn't really touched base on how much they don't have in their maintenance contract compared to how much the DFSA regulated entity do. As a result of that, I touched base with their IT manager there, or their office manager. So there was one particular glaring issue for me, which is access control. You should be having access control systems in place, and they should be managed. Otherwise, if it's not working, your office manager is going to say, okay, it's not working, never mind, let's just turn it off. Or let's wait for a contractor whom we don't even know, or who may not have worked on such systems previously.
But there is risk if they turn it off. Absolutely. There is all these things which then eventually can make them lose the ability of getting, registering part of this, the entity you're talking about.
It's huge, yeah, absolutely huge. Regulating entities don't just look at your current behaviours, they look at previous behaviours, and they want to see that if there have been issues previously, have you rectified those problems? But when you're an office manager and you've got everything to manage, you're not thinking in those terms all the time. Right. So it's important to come to people such as myself, who work for companies such as ourselves.
Yeah, you actually had the vision. You compared, you saw a gap, and as simple as looking at existing accounts. And we are always looking for new clients, while they say there are acres of diamonds in your backyard.
Of course, yeah.
There are acres of diamond. All what you got to do is just go and start digging, man. You just got to go and start digging.
Definitely. Definitely. And,
And what did that result in?
Yep, so there was a good uplift in the size of their contract, but also we're providing a lot more services as a result. So the access control provision, that does increase the actual value and revenue to us by 20% per month, which is
fantastic,
brilliant in terms of revenue. But also now we're giving them that peace of mind that actually you are now approaching the level of your peers in Dubai. When you do want to go to be a regulated entity, you're in a much better position. He now knows that he's working with someone who's
professional, knows their business, knows, cares about our interest, not just theirs. So it's a win-win. Win. You win, they win, the relationship wins, man.
Absolutely. And then there's future discussions there. So I can work with him more closely now and help him to build that roadmap. For example, there's no camera pointing towards his server room. That will need sorting out at some point. You always have to have a camera on your server room. And it's those little bits of information that, okay, the regulators may allow it, and they'll tell you that you need it, and you think, okay, I need that, never mind. But when they come around in 3 months and you still don't have it, like, actually that license that I've just given you, I can revoke it right now. So and that does happen. It happens an awful lot if people don't listen to the right people. So it enabled me to be there, show myself as that trusted advisor, and really add value. And
wonderful,
strengthen a relationship that realistically wasn't there, and it should have been there. It absolutely should have been. So thank you for that. I know that, as you said, there's diamonds in your back garden, but I just know that focusing on what we call aged accounts, and it feels painful saying that, but when you focus on aged accounts, I know that we're going to grow as a company, I'm going to grow as a salesperson, and our customers will grow as a result.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing there. There's a scenario where today, after going through this journey and this transformation, you've learned and you've been able to kind of put on multiple lenses, multiple layers, whether the layer of the mindset, the layer of the referrals, the layers of the opportunities of aged accounts, and many other layers. So now you know.
Yes.
If you go back to when you started selling 10 years ago, or And today you can imagine people watching us today thinking, you know, I've been in sales for 10 years. I've been in sales for 15 years. Right? What would you tell yourself 15 years, 15 years ago to possibly look at investing in yourself, look at educating yourself and putting on these lenses that help you achieve the success that you're achieving today?
Absolutely. So investing in yourself is incredibly important, and people are always a little bit scared to do it because it's always going to cost money. That's why it's investing in yourself.
I mean, that's what you did, you invest money, but also invest your time. You can spend time practicing and disciplining yourself, or you can spend time, going to Barasti or
Sure.
whatever, So
no, absolutely. But if I could go back, it would be to be a good listener and never stop being a good listener. Because when the day that you tell yourself that you're a good listener is the day that you've actually stopped listening. So it's important to keep listening and then keep telling yourself to keep listening. And one of the ways that you can do that, and one of the ways that you can actively do that, is to invest in yourself. Read those books, but take on board what the books are telling you. Go to the courses and find positive mentors such as yourself, and make sure you listen to those people, because otherwise you just got a great man in the room and you're not listening to him. So same with Chris. It's important to have those people in the room with you, to find those people and make sure you're listening to them. So if I could go back to any point in my life, but 10 years is a good point. I would say keep listening and never stop.
I think this is a brilliant point, because today listening, there are multiple levels of listening. We go through the 5 levels, but at the very basic core, the solid core, level 3, is where you're actually actively listening. You're nodding, you're clarifying what someone is saying, you're understanding not what they're saying, but what they mean by what they're saying. And as a sales professional, if you're able to do that, you actually are starting to build that relationship, starting to build the trust. Yes. There are 2 more levels which we won't go into right now, but the point is that listening is the, if you find someone that is listening to you, do you like them more or less?
Significantly more. And studies have shown it, as you told. And we did an exercise to prove it, and it was across the board. When someone noticeably stops listening to you, you noticeably you just give up. My course mate Jad, he said that I didn't even look at him after he stopped listening. I just gave up. I think I grabbed a mint and I was just like, whatever.
That's a classic one. That's a really classic answer. Thank you for sharing. And for the audiences today, just again, something that you can do is, are you really listening? How can you become even a better listener? Because again, what Paul said is, when you think you know it, is the moment you actually stop putting in the effort. It does take effort to listen. Even I, right? Especially when I'm in a hurry, I have certain things on my mind, I might not listen as good. But when you are with a client, mobile is off, and you are 100% senses aware of what's going on. So one of the things is in getting commitment with clients, getting the commitment, closing the deal, or starting the relationship, negotiating. Any changes that you've seen in the way that you are working, and has it brought you some results as well?
Absolutely, yeah. So one area that you really communicated a lot during the course was the more you put into your preparation, the less time you spend into your negotiation, which is good, because negotiations slow things down, they'll cause friction, it could eventually damage a deal, could eventually damage a long-term relationship because of that friction. So it's important to keep negotiation as friendly and as quick as possible. Preparation is key for that. So I've been working...
So tell us a bit more about this preparation. What type of, but just go ahead.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've been putting a lot of procedures in place now, internally. I really try to drive those myself. So as soon as a customer will come to me asking for, say, a laptop, something very simple, they'll give me their specification or their model that they're looking at. I'll get back to them as soon as possible and say, yeah, absolutely, I can look at getting this laptop for you. not everything's available in Dubai immediately every single time. Apparently it's quite easy to get a Lamborghini. I'm not quite there yet, but if you've got a certain laptop, then you may struggle for it. So yeah, I'll get back to them, and I'll make sure that I say I'll also be looking into these options for you, because then if I'm putting other options forward, the one person's coming to one supplier and getting 3 good options instead of going to 3 suppliers and getting 1 good option out of those.
So wow, what I'm getting here is what you've learned, you've actually helped your internal process and teams to apply, and now the whole department is benefiting from these ideas, which is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's really important that I do that. It's important that I
we share, and of course when you're teaching someone something, what does it do to your own ability to apply it?
But it makes it so significantly easier.
It makes it easier. It makes it, I think the level of mastery that people can achieve in this course is not just taking the course, but teaching it to others. When you're teaching the ideas to others, you really are getting to that next level, and it just stays with you.
Yeah, so there's a strong coaching ethos in the way the course is delivered anyway.
Sorry, there is
a strong coaching ethos in the way the coaching is delivered, or the course is delivered. I never felt that yourself or any of your colleagues, like Philip, Marcos,
Alan,
and Alan, of course, the guy I do my one-to-ones with.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I never felt like they were telling me. It was always asking me and getting the best out of me.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
So tell us a bit about these one-on-one sessions that we've had. So we've had these group sessions, but then we had certain touch points with you throughout.
Yes.
And how have these helped you? You started describing that. Anything you will want to say on those?
No, yeah, immensely. So touching base with Alan, every other week, we'd go into great detail in terms of what I'm getting out of the course at the moment, how I think I can be improving, and anything that I've used that week or in that fortnight that's taken from the course. So I'm always, it was always good to be able to. And Alan's got a wealth of knowledge, by the way. He's from a similar industry as myself. Really, really knowledgeable guy. And anything you could throw by him, he would probably have the right answer. And he just knew how to coach it out of you. And the processes was a big thing that he really fed into as well. How much of this can you turn into process? And at first, a failure in humility was I was like, oh, we've got our 9001. We're very process driven. And then afterwards, I thought on that answer, it's that's not the right answer. No, he's giving me the right answer there. How much of this can I put into process? And really start working towards it. And we're doing, as a department, we're doing significantly better now in the way that we're engaging. Still a lot of improvement to be done, and that will never change. That will always come out of my mouth. Absolutely. I'll always say still a lot of improvement to be done.
The concept of your cup is full. If your cup is full, we can't put more, we can't pour. You gotta go empty your cup. So you caught yourself there saying, oops, my cup actually is not that full. Please give me some. So he's there to help. So basically any other, let's say, points of advice or tips you would like to give individuals that are considering, let's say, going for this course?
Yeah, absolutely. The key is to always invest in yourself. Invest in yourself in the right areas, invest in yourself in the right people as well. I can testify that Ramez and his team are absolutely the right people, but it's important that you do find those people in every area of your life. If you want to improve the way that you sell, the way that you approach sales, the way that you think about the bigger picture about what sales achieve, then this is definitely the right course for you. I think it's the right course for pretty much any salesperson who wants to do the right thing in being a salesperson, which is to add value into the room that they step into, or the industry that they step into. A salesperson is there to add value. If they're not adding value, they're just taking money. They're taking value. So
are you a giver or are you a taker? Are you giving value? Are you adding value? Or are you taking value from your clients? And you can take so much, but only after you give enough. You got to have lots of deposits to then make some withdrawals.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you know what they say, when you're ready, the teacher appears. And whether it's the teacher, meaning a person who's teaching you, or the book that you find, or the person that you get to interact with. And I think here, what I really love about you, Paul, is your humility, your excitement. You know, when the first day you came and you sat at the very end of the room in the corner, but as time came out, you just kept, you know, coming out and participating. And again, what you put into it is what you're currently getting out of it. And the more you put into it, the more you got out of it. And it's exciting to have you here and to award you with your certificate of completion for the program. What do you think of that?
Perfect.
All right, so
really
congratulations again.
Thank you so
much.
much.
And looking forward to seeing you in the advanced programs to come.
Very much. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, perfect. Thank you. Very proud of it. Thank you.
Awesome.